What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Movie Battleground. My name is Aaron Knoll. I am the producer of the show, and I am your host for this evening. And tonight we have a great battle. Once again, following last week's match between two rookies who are making their Battleground debut. One, somebody that the community is probably very familiar with. Another, a bit of a newer face to the community, but still all the same excited to be here as we have Austin Howell taking on Jacob Barber. And Austin, like I said, is a bit of a newer face to the community. I don't believe he's ever done anything like this online. But Jacob has done the odd match in some of the other previous debate leagues, but he has never debated film. So both of these guys are coming in with as minimal experience as possible, which means we are going to have a very interesting match ahead of us. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and speak to these gentlemen very quickly. Up first, I will bring in Mr. Jacob Barber. Jacob, how's it going, man?
It's going. It's a little hot outside, so I got a fan and an air conditioner going. Hopefully that's not affecting my audio too much. But no, I'm excited. I like Austin. We've gotten to know each other, in the movie sense the last couple weeks, so I'm excited for this.
All right. And obviously, like I said, you have a little bit of experience from doing the other debate leagues previously, but what do you think was the biggest help without giving too much away, in terms of your prep for this match?
It wasn't even doing another debate, because I like how you said the other league, like it can't be named. I thought that was funny. But it wasn't even doing the debate. I think judging. Depending on when this goes up in the match I judge, it could be completely out of order. But I think that's the biggest help, is just seeing the competition and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and hopefully I can implement that into my own debating.
To answer your question, the match you judged will go up after this one, but who cares? Who cares? I've never made it a secret that I pre-record these things. If you somehow think we're fucking live right now and doing this correctly, then that's on you, man. All right, I'm going to send you to the back, Jacob. Thank you, man, as I bring on his opponent, Austin Howell. Austin, how's it going, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been prepping for this my entire life, my entire movie life, watching career. I have 2,000 movies sitting across from me right there across my room. This is what I've been prepping for. Ever since I saw something like Movie Fights on Screen Junkies, I've been itching, dying to do something like this. So it's a pleasure for you to have me here, Aaron.
Wow, you got the confidence of Henry Sanchez. Let's see if you got the strategy coming in here. I'll ask you a similar question, man. What do you think helped you kind of prep the most in preparing to be here?
The fact that I prep anyways for every show I do over on the Movie Hero Network. I do tournament fights, I do tier ranker fights. All I do is watch movies. I take notes. My research is unlike anybody else. I have 10 sheets of notes here that I took, meticulously analyzing everything I watch. This is not going to be a match tonight, Aaron. I'm going to take Jacob Barber, put him on a surgical table, rip out his organs, and leave him for dead in a motel bathroom. This will not be a match. This will be an evisceration.
To the audience at home, you will not have to see that, because I want the channel to survive. You'll just see my horrified face. But all right, Austin, I love the enthusiasm. Can I call that enthusiasm? I don't know.
Whatever you want. It's at the end of it, you're going to be calling it a win. That's what you're going to be calling it.
No, fair enough. I can't say he's not confident. Let's go ahead and bring in Jacob. God bless your souls, and let's get this started. All right, guys, a quick refresher on the rules. Movie Battleground consists of a max of 5 debates. We'll talk about that 5th one if we get to it. Austin's attitude tells me he doesn't want to, but we'll see how the night goes. But with that said, the way that this will work is the first 4 questions were given to the competitors. They were given time to prep. They're also aware of each other's answers, so they had the opportunity to prep counter arguments if they believe they could do so. With that said, we will go back and forth between these 4 different debates. Each debate consists of 4 stages. Each competitor will get a 1-minute opening to establish their argument. They'll then get 2 minutes to flesh out their argument a little further. Then there will be 4 minutes of open debate. This is the time where you trade back and forth, fight for time, and get as much in as you can before you have 1 minute to close and surmise your argument. As always, I am not doing this alone, because God help me, I don't want to be the sole witness to a potential murder. I have Papa West, Sean Hunter, and Jordan Anderson, and Jesus Christ, I tripped over my own word. Jordan Anderson's in the background. And these guys will come on screen at the end of the fight to make the judgments on the matches. With that said, we're going to go ahead and get into the first question, and it's almost kind of fitting that Austin is coming in with all this evisceration and gut talk, because it kind of lines up with our first question, which is, what is the most badass horror villain of all time? There are tons of great villains from horror. This question inspired by one of my favorites from recent years in The Blind Man from Don't Breathe, the sequel of which is either coming out soon or recently came out. Recently came out sounds correct. Either way, it's going to be coming out. It'll be in theaters, and we decided to ask the question. So with that said, behind the scenes prior to the match, Austin is the person who was spun the favorite through random luck. You were given the there you go, Jacob, get those air quotes in. You were given the ability to choose which questions you go first on. You chose questions 1 and 3, so that means you are up first to speak on this question. And so with that said, as I go ahead and bring up your timer and disappear from me, you will have 1 minute on the clock to begin your argument. Your time starts when you begin speaking.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding. Even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child, this blind, pale, emotionless face, and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and another 7 trying to keep him locked up. For what I realized was behind those eyes, living behind those boys' eyes, was purely and simply evil. My choice this evening for the most badass horror villain of all time is the shape of evil, the boogeyman himself, Michael Myers. I cede my time to my argument.
All right, he cedes the remainder of his opening, beginning with what sounds like a quote from the film. I don't know. I saw it once a few years ago, so believe what you will. But Jacob, we move on to you. You have 1 minute to open. Time starts when you begin.
All right. When it comes to the most badass horror villain of all time, one name instantly comes to my mind, and that is the name Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger, he's been badly burned, has a gloved hand with razors, and the ability to kill people in their dreams, causing them to die in the real world as well. And he also wears a fedora, and you can't wear a fedora and not be a badass. It's a rule. He has 56 kills to his name, which, yes, I will admit is less than Michael Myers. I'm not going to deny that. But it's all about quality over quantity. See, the majority of Freddy's kills happened to characters we got to know, and we're mostly disappointed to see go. Mostly. And with 9 appearances, that averages out to about 6 kills a movie. See, the idea that you can't go to sleep because a serial killer can murder you in your dream, causing you to die in real life, is horrifying and can only be done by somebody with a badass mentality. See, now if your name is not Laurie Strode and it's not Halloween, Michael Myers isn't coming for you.
And that is time. All right, so good 1 minute openings from both competitors, setting the tone. Austin, we head back to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
October 31st, 1963, six-year-old Michael Myers brutally murders his sister, Judith Myers, with a butcher knife. For the next 15 years, he sits staring at a wall, emotionless, silent, under the care of Dr. Sam Loomis. He did not say another word for the rest of his life. An evil consumed him, an evil that is purely and utterly badass to anybody that should stand in his way. And on October 31st, 1978, he brutally murdered 14 people in one night in Haddonfield, Illinois. Over the course of the next 45 years, 6 decades of utter destruction, he has 128 total kills. That's 11.6 kills per movie. 10 films, 9 directors, but one thing has remained consistent over this entire franchise. Over every iteration we've seen, every director that has taken the reins, every writer, every producer that's taken the reins, one thing has remained consistent for Michael Myers. He is the most badass, ruthless, unemotional killer we've ever seen on screen. Anybody that gets in his way is out of his way immediately. Freddy Krueger, over the course of his movies, has become a complete and utter clown show. He's become an ass. He's not a badass. He's just an ass. He's an ass who cares more about joking with his playing with his food, joking with his food. He resorts ultimately to Looney Tunes tactics in his later movies. It is a complete joke. He is the laughingstock of the horror community. And while he once was badass, maybe back in the first movie, he has completely lost that over the course of his franchise, whereas Michael Myers, as we've seen, even in 2018, years and years, 40 years after 1978, he is still doing the same thing he always does, and that is murder and rampage, and all doing so without saying a single word. Everything that we've heard about Michael Myers is utterly badass. The fact that Dr. Loomis says that he thought he would burn in hell, but he knew in his heart that hell would not have him. That's badass.
And that is time. All right, Jacob, back to you. 2 minutes on the clock. Time starts when you speak.
See, I think part of what makes a badass villain, or even a badass character in general, is the ability to produce badass one-liners. It's what makes some of the most badass characters memorable. Think of any badass character, and you'll probably think of a badass line associated with them. So here are just a few of the badass one-liners that Freddy Krueger has said. This is God. Terrifying Tina, their final meeting, she utters the words, "Oh God," which was followed up by a quick thinking Freddy Krueger with this badass one-liner. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but nothing will ever kill me. Doesn't get more badass than not being able to be killed. How's this for a wet dream? Before pulling Joey into a waterbed, I don't think it gets more badass than killing someone in their dream on a waterbed, not worrying about the damage that could be done to the carpet. I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. Turns the phone into a tongue and gets in Nancy's mouth. Now, for a normal person, it's definitely frowned upon. For a horror icon, badass. What a rush. After killing a drug addict, turning his razors into needles. I repeat, he killed a drug addict, turning his razors into needles. He doesn't care. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too. Gotta be badass and not care if you're going to parody The Wizard of Oz, one of the greatest movies of all time. And probably the greatest one-liner that Freddy has to offer, welcome to prime time, bitch. I mean, now I am fair, so I would like to use my remaining 15 seconds to offer up some of Michael Myers' badass lines.
And that is going to be time on the argument. All right, guys. So with that, we have moved into the open date round. 4 minutes is on the clock. The timer will start ticking when the first person speaks.
You just made my argument for me, Jacob. Those are some of the corniest, most cringeworthy lines I've ever heard. The fact that Michael Myers doesn't need those is exactly what the silent killer is. Silent killer that doesn't need words to put intimidation and fear into another person. The fact one guy can walk through a locked door, just walk through the glass and keep coming at you. He take multiple gunshot wounds, multiple blunt force traumas, multiple falls, and just keep coming. The fact that he's human, the fact that he can just keep coming. He doesn't need dream worlds to do what he needs to do best.
Yeah, and he also can't kill a babysitter. So, I mean, I don't know how you can be a badass and not kill a babysitter.
He does kill the babysitter just years
Eventually,
later.
what, 6 movies later in a timeline that doesn't even count anymore?
Yes, and he was killing her. He was strangling her to death until somebody else interfered. He did complete his mission. He was completing his mission.
He was. And Freddy Krueger completes all of his missions. The fact that he has to go into a dream world, no, it's not a cop-out.
Freddy Krueger can't be at a couple of kids in a psych ward with special powers they just conjured up in their thing to fight back against him. He can't be at a kid who's a D&D wizard.
And again, it took how many movies for Michael Myers to kill a babysitter?
He was killing the babysitter. He was completing his mission. It's when outside forces interfere. The doctor who's been pursuing him the whole time interferes and shoots him. Then he continues to pursue her throughout the night. He continues to do that. It's only when outside people interfere, he does complete his mission eventually. That's what he does. That's why he keeps coming for years and years and years. He will not stop. He's like a Terminator. He will not stop until he completes his mission. He is absolutely possessed. He's possessed by this force, which is what makes him badass.
I mean, I don't see how you can call somebody who only comes out one night a year badass. Does that make Santa a badass?
Your guy is limited to one street. You would call that badass?
Yeah. I mean, he can go in the dreams. If Michael's not in Haddonfield, he's not doing anything. He has,
oh, really?
He has
Then
one mission.
why is Halloween H2O set in California, where he pursues Laurie Strode all the way to California and proceeds to murder everybody over there? That's patently false. It shows you haven't done your research.
Okay,
He
one
absolutely goes away from
movie in a
Haddonfield.
timeline that has
No,
since
several
been
movies, because there's
taken
another
out.
one where he travels outside into other cities. There's literally, we see plenty of things where Dr. Loomis has suspected him killing people all over the country, not just in Haddonfield, Illinois. It just happens to be that's where the central action takes place. Just like yours pretty much all take place in Springwood, Ohio. That's a pretty moot argument for the fact that they both
so you just named a city instead
locations.
of a street. So you just countered your own argument for me again.
Yeah,
so
on Elm Street in Springwood, Ohio. Yours is in the title. I mean,
yeah, and yours day is in the title. It's Halloween.
Yeah, let's talk about the
and they didn't even have so much.
Let's talk about how unbadass Freddy Krueger actually is. The fact that Michael Myers doesn't actually die. The fact yours is defeated by a girl simply turning her back on him and saying, "I don't believe you anymore." Is that badass? Doesn't sound very badass to me. You turn your back on Michael Myers, he's just going to stab it. That's what he's going to do.
Doesn't make him a badass. It just makes him a dick.
It's not a dick. He's ruthless. He's sadistic. He is a machine. He is a machine of evil. He's the boogeyman. He will continue to come for you any time of the day, anytime. He continues to pursue you. That's badass.
Why?
Because he's possessed by evil. He is possessed by she's the shape of evil. He is been possessed by a force. What motives? Motives for what?
I don't know. Being badly burned.
Why wouldn't he just go after the parents? Why is he going after kids? It doesn't make any sense.
They're high school kids.
Oh yeah, defenseless high school kids. My guy's murders full-grown people.
And that'll be time.
And puppies.
That'll be time on the 4 minutes. We're going to go to the 1 minute closing to wrap up the arguments. Austin, you are up first. Your minute starts when you begin speaking.
Look, to wrap things up, as we've seen, Freddy Krueger has become a complete clown show. Again, the one thing that we've seen that has remained completely consistent is Michael Myers absolutely staying exactly the same and doing exactly what he does best, and he's more popular than ever now, as we've seen with the David Gordon Green films. Let me tell you what's not badass about Freddy Krueger. Killing somebody by feeding them a bunch of food in a buffet style, not badass. Using a power glove, putting a kid in a video game, that's not badass, saying good graphics. Rapping with the Fat Boys, not badass in a music video. We're appearing on the Goldbergs and trading quips with Beverly about sweaters. That's not badass. Pretending to be the Wicked Witch of the West and parodying Wizard of Oz, not badass. Using literal Looney Tune tactics, that's not badass. And being smacked down verbally by Kelly Rowland of The Destiny's Child is not badass. If you think for a second that Freddy Krueger is more badass than Michael Myers, you're living in a dream world, my friend. You're living in a dream world.
All right, and that'll be time on the closing. Jacob, we shift over to you. 1 minute on the clock. Time starts when you begin speaking.
First of all, the Goldbergs isn't even a movie, so I'm not sure why you brought that up, but okay. Michael Myers, just because he's silent, that doesn't make him a badass. It just makes him silent. He goes around one night a year stabbing people. He doesn't change anything up. He goes after one person for 8 movies. And you know what? They didn't even want him in the 3rd movie so they tried to go somewhere else. I'm sure it didn't work, but you know, there's nothing terrifying about Michael Myers. He's silent. You don't know he's there. Just keep walking. All right. He's trying to hide. He's trying to hide, and then he's gone. Nobody was scared in that first movie until the very end. One person was scared. You know. And there's no motive. It's his little sister. Just sounds like family drama to me, not badassery.
All right, and that is going to be time on the closing. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome to the Movie Battleground for your guys' first fight. As I go ahead and drop the timer off, I will send you guys to the back and go ahead and bring on our judges. All right. So while I give them a second to finish up their final thoughts, nothing to say really fact-wise, as this was mostly an opinions match. However, I will say the real badass villains of horror are the studio execs that keep setting up timelines for these franchises and make them harder to understand than fucking rocket science. You guys are the true villains of this world. With that said, we are going to go around the table and hear the Papa. I head to you first. Who won it for you and what sold you?
I do also want to fact check. Yes, in fact, Freddy Krueger does wear a fedora. Jacob, thank you for your knowledge and headwear. But my point is going to Austin. And really, like the biggest point that hammered it home, Freddy Krueger, you can defeat him by saying you don't believe in him anymore and turn around. You do that to Michael Myers, you're going to get stabbed in the back.
Fair enough. Sean, I head to you. Who does your vote head to and what sold you?
This one, I felt like both competitors were kind of fighting over who's the most badass character, and I believe the question was who is the best horror villain.
The wording is badass. You're good.
Oh, it is badass?
Yep.
Well, then that doesn't change my answer, but I'm gonna have to go with Austin as well, just with Michael Myers. I felt like Jacob never really rebutted his remarks about Freddy being too jokey, his Looney Tune tactics, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go with Austin.
All right. So with that, Jordan, welcome to the Movie Battleground. It's nice to see you, but we will see you next round. As with that, 2 votes to Austin means he will receive the first point. As I go ahead and bring our competitors back in, and we head on to question number 2. And this question is focused on what I think most people would believe to be some of the best work that this studio has ever produced. A studio that has floundered both before and after this period, produced a series of films that people view as classics. And I guess they also made Pocahontas during this time period too. The question is, what is the best Disney animated film of the Renaissance period? And for those who don't know what the Renaissance is, it is a specific set of 10 films that were released between 1989 and 1999. Dignifying the Renaissance doesn't mean that everything falls into it. Disney itself has said what 10 films count. So no, unfortunately, a Goofy movie was not an acceptable answer for this question for all you Powerline fans. But we do have 2 great answers said here. And with that, as we bring back up the timer, Jacob, you are up first on this one. So the time will start for you when you begin speaking.
So when you think of the Disney Renaissance period or just 90s animation in general, the first movie that's going to come to 95% of people is The Lion King, and for good reason. The Lion King is an iconic, beloved classic. Stunning animation. The voice acting is easily some of the best work done in animation. Music and score, outstanding. And the story is so well done that even though we jump years from Simba's birth to Simba's childhood, and from Simba's childhood to Simba's adulthood, we aren't left with any questions we're asking at the end of the movie. Lion King has one of the best villains in all of cinema and Scar, voiced perfectly by Jeremy Irons. And the message of remember who you are is just, it's such a good message to portray and one that can still apply today. So to recap, stunning animation, exceptional voice casting, fantastic score, catchy original songs, all in a complete story with a fantastic message to receive.
All right, and that's a perfectly done opening. Austin, I move over to you. 1 minute on the clock when you speak.
My movie is a tale as old as time, a song as old as rhyme. And of course, we're talking about Beauty and the Beast. If The Little Mermaid was the appetizer to get us ready for the Renaissance, Beauty and the Beast was the perfectly cooked filet mignon. From Alan Menken's Oscar-nominated score to Howard Ashman's Oscar-nominated song to the fact that the movie itself was nominated for Best Picture in a year of Silence of the Lambs is absolutely astonishing. From the opening musical sequence of Belle that perfectly introduces us to every single character in the town that we're living in, to the themes of Belle being an outcast, not being a Disney princess, and having to overcome these obstacles living in this cookie cutter village, to the very complex characters of both the Beast and Gaston. Gaston being one of the most complex and ingenious villains and unconventional villains that we've ever seen, who doesn't have pursuits to be royalty or to take over the world. He just wants something he can't obtain. Beauty and the Beast is a masterpiece.
All right. Two great options from the Disney Renaissance. I think most people would say, literally, debatably, the two best. With that said, 2 minutes on the clock. Jacob, we go back to you. Time starts when you speak.
Yeah, and we're just going to go ahead and go right into why Beauty and the Beast is not a great movie. So, number one, we're going to talk about Belle's song at the beginning. She's kind of mean, referring to her hometown as little, full of little people. No wonder the townspeople aren't the biggest fans of hers. You know, the Beast loves Belle. Why can't the Beast tell her his name? Nobody knows his name. He's just referred to as Beast. Was he a beast when was he named Beast when he was a prince, a human prince? I guess. And the whole premise for the Beast is just far-fetched. So he's a kid, and he doesn't let a stranger into his house, and he's punished for it. So everything we're taught as kids not to do, this guy's getting punished for. That okay. And the second thing about that, he's having a party. Why is the prince answering the door at his own party? Surely other people do that. The movie takes place in France. Only 2 people have an accent. All right, cool. Apparently the Beast forgot how to use silverware as his time as the Beast because he's drinking out of a bowl like a dog. I think it's just lazy writing to get a stupid joke inserted into the movie. It's never explained why the servants are turned into objects too. You know, I feel like at least the Beast got to keep his hands and feet. You know, Mrs. Potts falls and breaks and she's done. What, is glue gonna put her back together? I don't know. Maurice is a terrible father. Just kind of dumb. The mob can get to the castle, but he gets lost a second time back. And even after the Beast falls in love with Belle, he still thinks about her as a prisoner. And Belle has to ask if she's free. So, you know, good movie about Stockholm Syndrome, I guess. I have more, but I'll wait.
All right. That'll be time on 2 minutes. Austin, we shift back to you. It starts when you speak.
I'm going to keep talking about how my movie's a masterpiece. So literally from the open, the stained glass window opening, telling the story so exquisitely, much like an Egyptian hieroglyphic old tale, the fact that it adds to the tale as old as time, introducing us to this world, this castle, this Beast. Everything that we get introduced to is something you remember. Even the side characters of LeFou and the little townspeople. The townspeople we're introduced to as simpletons will become bloodthirsty murderers under Gaston when he makes his transformation into a psychotic killer later, as we see, going from just an arrogant guy trying to pursue this woman, trying to marry her, to manipulating and trying to put Belle's dad into a sale asylum just to marry this guy. He is absolutely twisted and psychotic. Scar is simply an old cliche of trying to take over the throne. It's just cliched and tired. What we see throughout the film, absolutely tremendous songs, to the absolutely jaw-dropping centerpiece of the movie, the ballroom sequence, which mixed both animation and computer graphics, and along with Angela Lansbury's beautiful song of Beauty and the Beast, the title song, absolutely stunning. The fact that the movie champions individuality, that Belle is, she's an intellectual, she's a reader, she's not obsessed with her looks, as opposed to somebody like Gaston. And she has to overcome the looks of the Beast to fall in love with him. And the Beast has this arc as well, where he is bitter and emotionless, and he is angry, and he has to overcome that and learn to control his temper. He has to learn, and also the fact that we have a ticking clock in the movie. We have a ticking clock of the rose that is counting us down, and there's a sense of tension in that if he doesn't do this in time, it lingers in the back of your mind. There's something like that. Lion King plays around with time in that it just skips giant chunks of the movie, and we never know what's going on until we revisit it a while. It's horrible, and Hakuna Matata might be one of the worst mantras ever talked to kids.
And that is going to be time on the 2 minutes. We switch over to the 4-minute open debate. The time starts when the first person speaks.
Lion King suffers once Mufasa dies. Once you lose the presence of James Earl Jones, the movie never quite recovers from that, as does Simba. And you lose your strongest character, and we're not with Simba because he's a spoiled brat for the most part, and I'm not with him as I am with Belle.
First of all, Simba's not a spoiled brat. He's a kid. He's a young cub, and most kids act like that. So I don't know where you're getting the spoiled brat from.
Oh, I
Belle,
just can't wait to be king. I can't wait to rule you and put you into servitude,
if
Zazu.
you know,
that is a spoiled brat.
okay, first off, Zazu's kind of a jerk to Simba, so Zazu has it coming, which is great. Their camaraderie is great. They play off each other so well. I just can't wait to be king. Great sequence in the film, colorful. The song is catchy, and it serves a purpose in getting them to the elephant graveyard. The tension in the elephant graveyard is fantastic. And Simba, you see that bravery in him trying to fight 3 hyenas and learning to want to be brave like his dad.
He's fighting them? I thought he was running from them the entire time after being arrogant.
Have you ever fought 3 hyenas face head on?
He runs. He acts like he's brave and he runs. That's
and then when Nala is about to get snatched by them, he comes back and snatches it. It's 3-on-1.
Right,
anyone would run in a 3-on-1.
Yeah. Let's talk about Nala for a second. Let's talk about the non-existent relationship that's forced down later in the movie that is not developed whatsoever. You go from a light friendship, maybe 1 or 2 scenes established, just to later on in the movie, she shows up and is giving the F me eyes to Simba. That is, there's nothing in between to get us invested in that relationship whatsoever. We have this time jump. That's the biggest problem with the movie, is we just jump who knows how long. It could have been years from Simba being a cub to being grown up and forgetting about everything that's happening in Pride Rock.
And Belle falls in love with the beast in what, 2 days?
No, over the course of about 2 weeks, actually. So, and which is very possible. We've seen many people fall in love over the course of a week or 2 and get married. That's what happens. The fact that she's able to look past the beast's insecurities and his anger, and the fact that he learns to love her in return and learn to control his temper. It's absolutely a beautiful story.
And yet, this whole time, he still refers to her as a prisoner. I mean, what kind of love is there if you're still referring to somebody as a prisoner? It takes
he does that as
dying.
part of his temper. That's part of his temper. He puts her as a prisoner and then releases her pretty soon after, where he realizes he's being a jerk. He realizes that pretty quickly, and especially with the help of the side characters, who mine has much better side characters. We have Lumiere and Cogsworth, who are like Abbott and Costello, who have great. Yours, Timon and Pumbaa, rely on fart jokes.
Oh yes, Lumiere, the pervy candlestick. And
he's a Frenchman. He's talking about a Frenchman. He's a Frenchman. That's what he does.
He's a pervy candlestick, and you can dispute that all you want. He's a pervy candlestick. What about the rest of the women? Let's get into that. What about the rest of the women in Beauty and the Beast that are, one type, blonde, big-breasted?
Yes, that's exactly why Gaston is such a great villain, because he can have all that. He's probably had all that, and he wants something that he can't obtain. He wants the intellectual, the unobtainable. Scar's a whole point of just wanting to rule, just wanting to take over something, is one of the most cliched plots. We saw it even in The Little Mermaid, the movie before, of Ursula trying to take over the kingdom. It's the exact same thing. The fact that Gaston will do anything to marry this woman he can't obtain is absolutely breakthrough and astounding.
Most villains will do whatever they can to get what they want, but okay. And Scar goes so far as to setting up a stampede, killing his own brother in one of the most memorable moments in all of cinema. One moment that still gets people today.
And that will be time. That is time on the open debate. We move on to the closing, but Jacob, you may continue your point if you like, as your first time starts when you begin speaking.
The Lion King is the Disney movie of the 1990s and the Renaissance period also, including 89. Fantastic songs, great villain song in Be Prepared, where we learn all about what Scar is going to do. And Scar puts that plan into motion. He succeeds in getting what he wants. And it takes a strong female character in Nala coming and getting Simba and getting him back. Let's not even talk about Rafiki. The wisdom that Rafiki has in getting Simba to come back and fight for his kingdom and fight for what is his and lead his people. Yeah, sure, he could be a spoiled brat at the beginning of the movie, but he learns from it and he becomes a great king and he starts to lead his people. Timon and Pumbaa, you can say they cause a spinoff. Where's Lumiere and Cogsworth's spinoff? The sequels are great. I know we're not arguing that, but the sequels, most people wanted to see more from this series, and they got it.
And that is time. All right, that is going to be time. Austin, you have the last word on this fight. 1 minute goes to you when you start speaking.
It's funny that you mentioned Simba being a great king when we see him being king all of about 5 seconds in that movie. The Lion King teaches kids one of the worst things you can teach them, which is Hakuna Matata, which is to forget your problems and just keep moving your life and not face the things that are the challenges that you're facing them. We need to teach kids to overcome the problems, to fight for what's right. And the fact that that central part of that movie is this really catchy song, that the one that kids remember, Hakuna Matata, means no worries and forget all your problems. Absolutely ridiculous, horrible. Whereas Beauty and the Beast teaches kids that beauty is truly on the inside, that you can be an outsider and overcome and really rise up and be who you want to be and follow your dreams. As far as villain songs go, be prepared. I prefer my villain songs without Nazi propaganda. That's just me. And as far as the acting goes, we haven't even talked about the acting. My movie lets voice actors, unknown voice actors, do what they do best, which is act. And your movie started a horrible trend of having to cast celebrities in every single minute role, including Whoopi Goldberg playing hyena number 3.
And that is going to be time on the debate. Another great round, competitors. I will go ahead and send you to the back as I bring our judges on screen. All right, and while they are making up their final decisions, I have some quick fun facts to run down for people and some fact corrections from the argument. So this one's more of a fun fact than anything. As with most properties from the 90s, they were both based on classic stories or tales. Beauty and the Beast was obviously based on the French story, translated to English as Beauty and the Beast. The Lion King, though not officially listed as an adaptation of everything, does take heavy inspiration from both the story of Moses from the Bible as well as William Shakespeare's Hamlet, and depending on who you ask, Kimba the White Lion. With that said, some facts from the match. Beauty and the Beast was in fact nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated in 1991 alongside the winning Silence of the Lambs, Bugsy, JFK, and The Prince of Tides. It is the first of 3 animated films to ever receive the honor of Best Picture. In terms of the prince's name, though Disney itself never actually gave the prince a name, subsequent other properties have given him the name Prince Adam, which is something Disney has ran with. And though I don't believe they ever say it in the remake, they do reference to the fact that that is, in fact, the character's name. Moving on to some other facts related to this. The comment at the end about Whoopi Goldberg playing hyena on number 3, for those curious, she is playing the character Shenzi, and she's actually technically hyena number 1, as she is credited ahead of both Cheech Marine and Jim Cummings. And with that said, the last thing was about the time, which this is actually one of the things I give the remake a lot of credit for. One of the heaviest criticisms by people of the original is that they don't actually really tell you how long it is. It's implied that she's there for just a couple of weeks or even a matter of days, but you see complete season change, which doesn't really line up because they say her dad gets lost in the forest and makes his way back. Previously, the trip took a couple of days, but again, the movie make it seem like he was lost for months. This is actually something the remake corrected. They changed the plot line slightly, that when he goes back out looking for Belle and gets lost, he takes Gaston and Maurice with him, and there is a line that references the fact that Belle was in fact in the castle for 5 days. So that is the definitive of how long she was actually in the castle, as per the remake, which again, considering is a remake of the original, take that for what you will. With that said, I've vamped more than enough to give our judges some time, so I move to Sean first in about 30 seconds or less. Only who won it and what sold you?
One of my all-time favorite animated Disney films is Beauty and the Beast. I love that film. I watched it so much. But Jacob swung me on his side. Like, a lot of the things he said, I thought Austin couldn't rebuttal or didn't do a good enough job. Just a couple things about the French accent. Why is the Beast answering the door? The pervy candlestick. I felt like Austin was just telling me good things, a lot more good things about his film. And Jacob was telling me good things about his film, but also bad things about the other films. So I'm going to go with Jacob.
All right, so our first vote goes to Jacob. Jordan, I go to you. Who won it for you and what sold it?
Well, for me, The Lion King is my favorite Disney animated movie of that time period, and for me, Austin won it for me just because it makes me kind of rethink that. Like he told me so many points about why Beauty and the Beast is just an amazing movie. The fact that it's nominated for an Oscar, the fact that you have the rose as the building tension and kind of like a timepiece, and then also just kind of pointing out kind of how silly and weird Timon and Pumbaa actually are, and about Hakuna Matata, that it's kind of a weird mantra for kids to just forget all their problems and not face them. So I think he won it for me.
All right, so it's a split decision, which means I go to Papa in about 30 seconds or less. Tell me who won it for you and what sold you.
Amazing. All four of y'all are wrong. Hercules is the best Disney Renaissance animated film. Fuck you.
Oh.
Regardless, I am giving my point to Austin. This was a very good debate back and forth. He just had a couple more hits against The Lion King, especially against Timon and Pumbaa only doing fart jokes, and Nala, who comes out of nowhere with the fuck me eyes, which I can't wait to have someone give me those eyes one of these days.
Someday.
Absolutely. I hope for your sake it's not a lion, because that's a mauling. With that said,
That's not fuck me eyes, that's fuck you eyes.
Thank you guys for the help as I go ahead and bring back on our competitors. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to question number 3 for the night. Which is, over the last decade or so in Hollywood especially, we have seen a movement towards the importance of franchises, whether it be a consistent streak of old franchises making returns, or the attempts to mimic what Marvel has done and build this one continuous cinematic universe. Franchises are more of a thing in Hollywood than they've ever been. And 2016 was a year that contained a lot of franchises, whether it's multiple major franchises releasing entries, including Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek had a release in that year, and other major blockbuster franchises as well, even to smaller films that got sequels that you really don't remember and probably haven't seen, like Kung Fu Panda 3 or Ride Along 2. There's just an eclectic mix of films all around in this year. And so that's why the question is, what is the best franchise entry released in 2016? Now, I'm glad I made you think about all of these answers, because I think these gentlemen, in the best way possible, went with the 2 most obvious answers, and that is not a shot at them. This is going to be a fun one. With that said, Austin, you're up first. So as I raise up the timer, it will begin when you start speaking.
Well, I originally went with an unobvious answer, just a little behind the scenes of Shin Godzilla, but unfortunately it didn't meet the American release date criteria for this, so oh well. But instead I picked Rogue One, a Star Wars story, the movie that puts the wars back in Star Wars, the movie that is, without a doubt, the best of the Disney era thus far, the one that feels most like the original trilogy, that gives us everything we want to see about the other side, the icky, dirty side of rebel warfare, the icky, dirty side of militia and espionage and spies and the seedy, slimy underworld that we now absolutely adore in The Mandalorian. And if we wouldn't have had Rogue One be such a success, we wouldn't have had something like The Mandalorian. This is absolutely one of the best Star Wars movies ever made, if not, like I said, the best of the Disney era. And I will cede the rest of my time until we get to the arguments.
All right, absolutely, which means we move on to Jacob. Time starts when you begin speaking.
For me, the answer seemed obvious, and that is Captain America: Civil War. This is just a personal feeling. This is my favorite of the MCU. I'm sure that's not going to play into the judges at all, so I don't know why I'm even saying that. But this movie, Avengers 2.5, as people like to call it, was just everything I wanted and most people wanted in a continuation of Cap's storyline, as well as Iron Man. I think we get the best performance out of Robert Downey Jr. Up until Endgame, but we get his best performance up to that point in this movie. The airport scene, the fight at the end between Cap, Bucky, and Iron Man, Just seeing all these characters together going at each other. It's like you're playing Marvel versus Capcom, but it's on the big screen. And it's just a fantastic entry into the MCU.
And that is going to be time on the opening. 2 minutes is on the clock for Austin when you speak.
Well, speaking of Godzilla, we obviously have the director of the 2014 Godzilla, Gareth Edwards, taking the reins here on Rogue One, and him and both collaboration of him and Greg Fraser, the director of photography in this movie, is really what sets Rogue One head and shoulders above Captain America's Civil War. The fact that it is an absolutely gorgeous film. The cinematography of this film is impeccable. We have real sets, real locations, the Maldives, Iceland, Jordan, all these amazing real sets. It gets back to what the core of what Star Wars is: real practical effects, real cinema, real locations, everything real. We have a new group of characters. It proves that you don't have to have a Skywalker to do a Star Wars movie. You don't have to have Jedis and lightsabers. You don't have to have this stuff. You can introduce a whole new group of characters in this familiar world. As we see, the theme of the movie is hope, which brilliantly leads into A New Hope, Star Wars, with the ending that seamlessly goes from one to the other. As soon as this closing credits end, you want to immediately put on A New Hope because it just flows so brilliantly back to back. We get to see this world, like I said, we haven't ever seen, of spies and espionage about rebels, the dirty things they have to do against the Empire to overcome it. We get to see the Empire's rule of these planets and the absolute totalitarian nature, the almost Gestapo-like nature of Ben Mendelsohn and his death troopers like the SS, absolutely being brutal to these characters. We have incredible space battles. We obviously have the thing we've been clamoring for as Star Wars fans, to see Darth Vader doing what he does best at the end of the movie, and that's wiping out a bunch of rebel geeks left and right. And most of all, what this movie has that Captain America doesn't have is stakes. We see people die for the cause. They go on these suicide missions. They are willing to lay it all on the line, as opposed to the bickering, the scrimmages, the scraps that literally mean nothing in the movie, that just, it looks like you're having a sparring match.
And that is going to be time. Jacob, 2 minutes on the clock. Time starts when you speak.
Are you Team Cap? Are you Team Iron Man? That was the question that took over the summer. Not, hey, are you going to go see a Rogue One, a Star Wars story? Nobody asked for a prequel to A New Hope. We got a prequel called Revenge of the Sith, and nobody liked it. You say there's no stakes. There absolutely is. The Sokovia Accords, you know, the future of superheroes, are they going to be able to work the way that they need to in order to save the world? You know, but just off of that, you know, little critic facts, you know, Rogue One, 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, Captain America Civil War, 90%. I know, you know, critics don't know. Well, let's go to the audience score, because the audience score has Rogue One at 86, while Civil War is at 89. People wanted to see this. People wanted to see these characters go at each other. I don't remember anyone asking for Rogue One. You learn about the death of Tony's mom. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., shows so much emotion in this movie. He gives his best performance. You know, you get the beginning of a relationship between Vision and Wanda, which would then spawn into so much more. And WandaVision, one of the best Marvel properties. So much came out of this movie, whereas nothing came out of Rogue One, because it was a standalone movie that, again, I'm going to reiterate, didn't need to be made. Is it good? Yeah. Is it on the level of Captain America? No.
And that is going to be time on the 2 minutes. So with that, we head to our 4-minute opening debate. The time will begin when the first person speaks.
You already admitted that your movie is basically Avengers 2.5. The fact that it's not a Captain America movie, and that Iron Man has more screen time than Captain America in his own film, and it doesn't wrap up the trilogy that the previous two set up, the Hydra trilogy, and the fact that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had to wrap up that storyline really shows some of the flaws in your movie, and the fact that it's more of an Avengers movie than a Captain America movie.
That doesn't mean that it's not a better movie than Rogue One.
No, I'm arguing that my movie is better. Yeah, it is better because it took a line of dialogue or a line in an opening crawl of Star Wars and gave us something we didn't know we wanted that we absolutely loved. It took one line and created an entire world, this new movie, an original property, an original movie out of this franchise. It gave us something that wasn't connected to the other films as far as the Skywalkers and the Jedis. It gave us something we didn't know we wanted, and now we have The Mandalorian, which is a direct line to that film.
Captain America introduced Black Panther. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. It introduced us to Spider-Man without doing an origin story that we didn't need anymore. It introduced us to the WandaVision. It gave us so many good fight scenes. We have Zemo. We have a great villain. That's
one of the worst villains ever, with the most contrived plot ever, that everything has to fall exactly in line, almost like a Saw film, where he has to predict everybody's behaviors. Everybody has to act like an idiot for his plot to work. And the fact that the crux of his plan involves one of the biggest plot holes, one of the dumbest things ever, a camera on a tree on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, proving that Bucky killed his parents, is one of the most ridiculous things, where his mind fixes a plot hole of how the Death Star weakness got there. It was planted there. It's absolutely brilliant writing.
Yeah, it needed a movie to fix a plot hole. Okay,
that's just a part of the movie. No, it's about getting these plans. It's about this mission, this suicide mission. These rebels coming up, this band of misfits, actually going out and fighting trench warfare, fighting on the ground, fighting from the air, guerrilla warfare, Vietnam style, as well as the rebels in the air doing the traditional space battles. The epic nature of the back and forth is nothing we've ever seen in Star Wars. This ground level warfare we've never seen. It's absolutely unique to yours. Your central action scene is like a kid sitting in his room slamming action figures together, and there's literally they joke about them pulling their punches. It's ridiculous.
And that scene is still talked about today. I don't hear anyone talking about Rogue One except for you.
Everybody talks about the Vader scene. Everybody talks about the space battles in that movie. Everybody talks about that. That's patently ridiculous.
I don't see
We would not have got the Luke Skywalker scene in The Mandalorian of him limping ass without for that Rogue One Vader scene. That is a fact. That is a 100% fact.
And I would love to see where these people are talking about Rogue One, because I'm seeing them all talk about how bad Rise of Skywalker was. I'm seeing them talk about Mandalorian. No one's talking about Rogue One anymore.
Yeah, when people talk about it, they talk about how great it is. You're talking about movies I'm not even talking about right now.
Okay. Yeah, I love that you can interrupt me while I'm trying to make a point. That's good debate skills. Airport scene still talked about today as one of the best scenes in not only the MCU, but in all of comic book movies and in all of action scenes. This scene is iconic. You know, your last second scene in Rogue One, sure, it's a good scene. This scene is talked about so much more. People loved this.
A scene. You're talking about your entire argument for a 2.5-hour movie is hinging on a 15-minute scene. That's all I've heard about. It's this 15-minute scene. I don't hear about the ridiculous nature of the characterizations in the film and how it betrays the previous films of Black Widow.
I would if you didn't interrupt me all the time when I was trying to make points.
And that is going to be time on the argument. We will head to the 1-minute closing. Austin is up first. Time starts when he begins speaking.
Captain America Civil War, as we've heard, is pretty much based around one scene. And that's what people talk about. The reason we don't talk about the rest of the movie is because the action is choppy, shaky cam. The Russos cannot hold the camera still. The fact that there's literally no cinematography whatsoever in the movie. Everything looks bland and pale and ugly, and all the movies to come from that have looked exactly the same. Mine is picturesque. You can take any frame from Rogue One and put it on a poster. It's absolutely gorgeous. The direction is impeccable. The acting is incredible. Yours is overstuffed. It's busy. There's 20 characters they have to shoehorn into this movie. It's an Avengers movie. The fact that it's not a Captain America movie, he gets less screen time than Iron Man. It's either Iron Man 4 or it's Avengers 2.5. We have not seen a true Captain America 3, and that's a damn shame. And the fact that we can't get that is a crying shame. In fact, there's not really a war in Civil War. It's called Civil War. We get a couple of little debates, and that's it.
And that is time. That will time on the closing. We will move on to Jacob. 1 minute on the clock. Time starts when you begin speaking.
one team of friends, another team of friends. They know each other. They're fighting. Civil War, kind of like the North and South in the United States. That's kind of where the Civil War comes from. So I don't know where you're getting at saying there's no war in Civil War, but okay. Again, I'm just going to reiterate it. You are talking about one scene at the end being iconic. You say I only talk about the airport scene because that's the only thing you're tearing down until your last minute argument. I talked about seeing Wanda and Vision. I talked about the introduction of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I talked about the introduction of Black Panther. Did you just forget all those, or are you just choosing to focus on the airport scene as well? You know, no one is talking about Rogue One today. People are talking about Civil War. It was a crucial point in the MCU. It was highly successful, and it was a great way to start Phase 3 of the MCU. Rogue One is a standalone that nobody asked for, and it was pretty good.
All right, and that will be time on the arguments. Go ahead and send both our competitors to the back, and we will bring on our judges. All right, so while they're making up their final decisions, a couple of facts to run down following this argument. So up first, Rotten Tomato scores were brought up, so it is worth noting them. They were both correct, but in case you guys missed the numbers in the quick speak, Rogue One has an 84% like rating on Rotten Tomatoes with a 7.5 out of 10 rating from critics. Of their audience, it's an 86% like rating with an average score of 4.1 out of 5. Captain America Civil War has a 90% like rating with a 7.7 out of 10 rating for critics and an 8.9 like rating with a 4.3 out of 5 score for the audiences. It was said that there was already a Star Wars Episode 4 prequel that was not liked. Revenge of the Sith on Rotten Tomatoes has an 80% like rating with a 7.3 out of 10 rating and a 6.6 out of 6.6 or 66% audience like rating with a 3.1 out of 5 average. It is the best reviewed of the prequels. When talking about screen time, the airport scene is 15 minutes of Captain America Civil War. When talking about characters on screen, Captain America does have more screen time than Tony Stark. Iron Man, he is on screen for 38 minutes and 15 seconds of the film. Iron Man is on screen for 37 minutes and 15 seconds. So though it is very close, there is an exact 1 minute difference in screen time between the two characters, and Captain America was on screen more. For what it's worth, Captain America is consistently the character who appears least in his own films. In Captain America and the Winter Soldier, out of 136 minutes of film, he was only on screen for 59 of it, meaning he's literally not in and out, or not even on screen for an hour of his own movie. And in terms of talking about the ensembles, both films are concisely ensemble films with groups of characters. The main ensemble for Captain America, including villains, has 14 characters. Rogue One, though not quite that large, does have 9 characters in its leading ensemble. So close, but Captain America does have more. With that said, we will move on to our judges. Jordan, I head to you first. In 30 seconds or less, who won it for you and what sold you?
Well, I think this time I got to give it to Jacob, I think, just because he had some really awesome points. Well, like, are you team Cap? Are you team Iron Man? And just all the things that it introduced Spider-Man, introduced Black Panther. I mean, it introduced the Wanda Vision romance together, and it introduced Zemo, and it's kind of like Marvel versus Capcom on the big screen. That's a huge selling point for me. I love that game, but and also the death of Tony's mom, and then also how he pointed out that Rogue One was a sequel no one really asked for to just fix a big plot hole from A New Hope. So.
All right, so the first vote does go to Jacob. Papa, I head to you. You do not get that vote despite being a Jacob, but you are handing out a vote. So in 30 seconds or less, who sold you and who wins it?
I get this vote for really loving Star Wars in the MCU. I've never wanted to hop in on a debate as much as I have now. But I have to give my point to Austin on this. Just I felt he was able to attack the other film better. Bringing up the cinematography was bad in Civil War. The whole film was bland. And Zemo is a horrible villain. Let's be honest. He sucks.
All right, which means the deciding vote here does go to Sean. In 30 seconds or less, tell me who sold you and what sold it.
Austin did talk about cinematography being better. You know, we see the world through like spies and espionage. But I felt like Jacob just brought a lot more good points that weren't really attacked. Like Austin did say his film has stakes, but as Jacob said, like Civil War also has a ton of stakes. Sokovia Accords, the future of superheroes, like what's going to happen. Talked about the performances. Just what's gonna like WandaVision, just those characters meeting and stuff like that. Another thing Austin said, you know, you didn't need like a lightsaber or a Skywalker in a film, but you did. You had that at the end of Rogue One. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Jacob.
All right. So with that, Jacob does get his first point of the game. Thank you, judges. I will go ahead and ship you to the back as I bring on our competitors. And so with that, Jacob does get his first point. The game is alive, and we move on to question number 4. And with that, so this question incidentally ended up kind of mimicking a fight from one of our earlier fights. Not because the question was identical, but because they both ended up going with the same actor, which means I'll probably end up choosing this question later and barring this actor, because I think there is another debate that could work. But with that said, I can't deny that these are two brilliant films that answer the question, and let's get to the fight. What is the best drama starring a comedian of all time? All you needed to qualify was that you have someone who is a comedian in your role, and it is inherent drama. They answered the question, and we will see that fight. With that said, Jacob, you are up first on this one. So as I bring up the timer and disappear, time starts when you begin speaking.
I don't think there's any doubt that Jim Carrey shines in dramatic roles. He's a great actor. He can do the comedy. He can do the drama. And I don't think he does the drama any better than he does in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This film, it brings the romantic comedy, it brings some science fiction elements, and at its core, it's also a drama film. And I think they're able to bring those three genres together and meld them together seamlessly. The story is so unique. The ensemble cast, which includes Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, Kirsten Dunst, Mark Ruffalo, Elijah Wood, Tom Wilkinson, all of them shining in their roles, none of them being wasted. There's a reason that this film has developed a cult following and has been regarded by many as one of the best films of the 21st century.
All right, and that'll be time on the opening. Austin, I shift to you. The timer ticks when you speak.
My choice for this one is directed by Peter Weir, written by Andrew Niccol, also starring Jim Carrey. My choice is 1998's The Truman Show, one of the most original films ever put to celluloid, a film that challenged our perceptions of reality even a year before The Matrix. To me, Jim Carrey not only shines in this movie because of his drama, but because of all the other emotions and the escalation of emotions that he does as well. He does the tinge of comedy that we know him for. He does the drama, but he also plays the confusion, the anxiety, the dread, the ambition, everything he does with his facial expressions. So much of this film is him silently processing things throughout the film, which is, to me, an even bigger challenge. And one of the reasons this was an even bigger challenge for Jim Carrey is he was in the midst of his comedy boom. We hadn't seen him do it yet, and the fact that he came bursting onto the scene with Truman Show after all these comedies and did it is, to me, a huge achievement.
All right, and that will be time on the opening. We move on to the 2-minute flush out. Jacob, time starts when you speak.
What he started in the Truman Show in his dramatic appearances, I think he perfects in Eternal Sunshine. The chemistry between Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey is some of the best I've seen on screen in any film. Film has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of 8.5. Metacritic's got it at an 89 out of 100. B- cinema score. And we go on this journey with these two characters. With Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, and we're rooting for them, even though we know that they're going through this treatment, and we're rooting for these characters. In the Truman Show, I just wanted him to get out. And there were so many times where he could get out, and he just didn't. I spent the whole movie, I was rooting for him. And for some reason, he knows how to sail a boat at the end of the movie. And he gets there, and the movie just ends. It wasn't a very satisfying ending to me. Whereas everything about Eternal Sunshine, in my opinion, is satisfying. We got great performances from Mark Ruffalo, Kirsten Dunst, Tom Wilkinson, with a side storyline of a relationship. Elijah Wood, great comedic relief in my opinion. Thankfully he took the role from Seth Rogen, so thank you, Elijah Wood. Again, just to reiterate, I think when he starts in the Truman Show, which is a good dramatic role, he perfects and has his best dramatic role in a better movie in Eternal Sunshine.
All right, and that'll be 2 minutes. Austin, you're up when you speak.
Right in the middle of this comedic boom, when Jim Carrey does the Truman Show, from the opening of the film, the inventiveness of the opening credits of the movie actually being the credits of the Truman Show, Truman playing himself, Christoph, played by Ed Harris, playing the director. The supporting cast of this movie is tremendous. Laura Linney, Noah Emmerich, like I said, Ed Harris, nominated for 3 Oscars. This movie is truly groundbreaking. It's a movie that you want to talk about cultural impact. Not only did this movie find a huge audience that anybody could watch, is still talked about to this day, it created its own psychological syndrome called the Truman Delusion that hundreds of people have been diagnosed with and have suffered from and caused them to question their reality. That's a cultural impact of a film. Eternal Sunshine, while I'm not going to say it's a bad movie, I think the movie falters in that most of the nominations this movie received were for writing, to me, which tells me that any capable actor could do this. And the fact that Kate Winslet, I believe, completely outshines Jim Carrey, that Jim Carrey was going for the Oscar, he was going for it, and he didn't get it. It was him playing depressed, playing literally one emotion. They're arguing the entire time, the whole movie. You don't even get a chance to like him before they are broken up and we're going into them erasing each other's memories. Mind you, like Truman from the very beginning, you are rooting for him to get out of that, even from the beginning. The fact that we know that he's been in here for 30 years. He doesn't escape Jacob until he actually finds the will in himself to actually really get out. And even Ed Harris says it, when he wants to get out, he'll get out. And the fact that he's tried several times here and there over the years, we see montages of it. He's always had obstacles put in his way that he's brushed off. But we go with his will to escape. What is a better ending than a man finally escaping this reality? And the reason it's left ambiguous is because it could be a horror show, and what he faces on the outside being the most famous person in the world. We can infer what we want, but we are cheering when he gets out.
And that is going to be time on the 2 minutes. We move on to the 4-minute open round. The time will start for our competitors when the first person speaks.
Well, it's a good thing the question is what is the best drama starring a comedian, not what is the best dramatic performance from a comedian. So the fact that Jim Carrey wasn't nominated for an Academy Award, that's okay. He was nominated for a Golden Globe Award, whereas Kate Winslet was as well. My film also won Best Original Screenplay, which, I think in order to make a good movie, you got to have a good screenplay. And this is being called one of the best screenplays. It was the best screenplay of 2004 in this group size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and mine has a brilliant screenplay as well, completely original. The way they set up this world with these actors playing people, playing actors, it's really quite complex. And the little hints in the writing of the things you see in the background, the newspaper headlines, the subtle hints telling Jim Carrey to stay put, to not have these ambitions, to not dream bigger, to stay where he's at. All the little comments that are made through the performances of trying to lock him down and keep him in this world and keep having to ratcheting up the tension. That's what makes my movie great, is not only do you get the anxiety and the dread, but you get the drama. What's better drama than somebody trying to escape this prison?
These guys go on this journey of trying to erase, right? What they knew about each other. I don't think it gets more emotional and dramatic than that. Like, The Truman Show, it's one guy trying to escape. Camera's always watching. You say there's flashbacks and he's trying to escape. I don't know if he's trying to escape or he's just an exploring little kid.
No, he's trying to escape. He's trying to get on boats. So they it's where he gets his fear of dogs. The fact that he does know how to sail, by the way, he kind of implied he doesn't know how to sail. His dad dies because they were in a sailing accident. They drowned his dad intentionally just to create that fear. That is horrifying. It's something that immediately locks you into the character. And you want to talk about love interest and chemistry? We get more chemistry from Jim Carrey pursuing this woman he can't get, that is ripped away from her physically, as opposed to yours is ripped away through a medical procedure that they both consented to. I can't get involved in something that they both did, each consenting to erase each other's minds. To me, that takes me out of the film.
And I'm taken out of the film when it's discovered that he's a baby, and they're taking a baby and basically using a baby for profit to make a TV show. I don't know, something about that just sits with me in not a good way.
Well, Christoph is not supposed to be a likable guy. He does this interview talking about how they have tried to make money off him and the product placement in the film, and it was an idea that he had. You're not supposed to like the fact that he's in there, but Truman didn't have a choice in the matter. Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet as Clementine and Joel have a choice when they choose to erase each other. To me, I can't get behind that when they chose to do that.
And I can, because we see them get to that point and why they feel the need to do this. I don't know why. Just to make a profit? Is that why Ed Harris is doing this? Is he just wanting to
have
make
the number
money?
one television show in the whole world, which is a pretty good, motivation to me.
Okay.
In
I would like to
217
point out
countries.
that the American Comedy Awards did nominate Jim Carrey for Funniest Actor for The Truman Show. So, I mean, I guess he's still kind of doing his...
And then if you actually watch the movie, there's actually he's not delivering punchlines. He's not making stupid faces. There is manic energy that you can laugh at some of the scenes when he's trying to escape, but it's not him doing a comedic performance. He's actually doing much more facial expression acting, not just being depressed.
But he still has those comedic moments, and I don't think we get that in Eternal. I think it's mainly drama.
That is going to be time on the 4-minute open date. Good back and forth there, but we move on.
This goes by so fast, by the way. This is the fastest 4 minutes on the internet.
You're welcome. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the 1-minute closing. Time starts when you begin speaking, Jacob.
So in watching The Truman Show, I just found Truman to be a semi-likable character. And yes, I was rooting for him to escape, but that was only so the movie could be over. He gives a good performance, whereas in Eternal Sunshine, I think everybody gives a phenomenal performance. Like, this cast from top to bottom build just delivers their roles so well. I think Paul Giamatti is wasted in The Truman Show. He doesn't have enough screen time. He's too good of an actor to be subjected to that little screen time. And then again, like, he learns to sail, but he hasn't sailed for how long? I didn't know sailing was like riding a bike and you just remembered the instant you got back in a boat. And where did his fear of water just go? I mean, I would like things to be explained, and I don't think Truman Show did that just enough.
And that is going to be time on the 1-minute closing. Austin, you have a minute. Clock time starts when you begin speaking.
The movie is about overcoming fear, Jacob. He tries it and tries it and tries it, but when you have the will, finally the strong will to escape, you will. And here's the thing about Eternal Sunshine. I like it to a degree, but when we get literally almost no time, we get about 18 minutes before the opening credits hit of barely anything between Clementine and Joel before they're going in for the procedure, and then we get it later in the flashbacks, their little flashes of their romance, and it's not even much of a romance. Most of the movie, we see them arguing and bickering. They are both unlikable. Winslet is a nag. Joel is just moping around. I mean, if a dramatic performance is putting a beanie on your head and slumping over, okay, that's fine. And the fact that the ending, my ending, is triumphant. You are cheering him on. You are crying. You are leaping for joy. Yours, at the end of the film, they know what each other's done. They get wind of the procedure, and they decide to start it all over again. So you just throw up your hands in the air and go, okay, well, I guess we'll just have a sequel. That's literally exactly the same as the first movie.
And that is going to be time on the argument. Well done once again, guys. A great back and forth as I send you to the back, and we'll go ahead and bring on our judges. And while they get their final decisions ready, again, just another couple of points brought up that it's worth bringing up here. So in terms of in terms of Jim Carrey's transition from comedy to drama, obviously during the mid-90s, he had a period of a few years where back-to-back he released a bunch of hit films. However, contrary to the general belief, The Truman Show was not his first appearance in a drama of sorts. Prior to becoming the big star that he was, he had supporting roles in two dramas. The Francis Ford Coppola film Peggy Sue Got Married, which is classified as a comedy drama, just the same as Truman Show is. He also had a supporting role in the action thriller drama The Deadpool, starring Clint Eastwood, which is a part of the Dirty Harry series. The Truman Show delusion, also known as Truman Syndrome, is in fact a real thing. It was discovered in 2008 by psychiatrist brothers Joel Gold and Ian Gold, who said that they had witnessed themselves 5 cases and heard about 12 more cases of a form of schizophrenia in which people believe that they were living inside of a television show and consistently being watched. So this is a thing that has developed. People believe that it is due to films like The Truman Show, Utopia, and Ed TV have developed this delusion that people could believe that. When it comes to Academy Award nominations, it is worth noting that both films did not nominate Jim Carrey for their role. The Truman Show received 3 nominations for director Peter Weir, supporting actor for Ed Harris, and original screenplay for Andrew Niccol, though it did not win any. Eternal Sunshine had 2 nominations. Kate Winslet was nominated for Best Actress, although the film did win for Best Original Screenplay, written by Pierre Bismuth, Charlie Kaufman, and director Michel Gondry. And in terms of critic scores, because once again it was brought up to clarify for both films, Eternal Sunshine has a 92% like rating with an 8.5 out of 10 rating. Audience is 94% like rating with a 4.5 out of 5 rating. The Truman Show has a 95% like rating for critics with an 8.4 out of 10 average, and an 89% like rating with a 4.1 out of 5 audience score. So again, very, very close. And the last note that I had made here was I just Googled, is sailing like bike riding? And according to the website bikeindex.org, which has an org, so it seems legitimate, to quote, someone once said sailing is just like riding a bike, unless you've never been sailing before. And if you fall off your bike, the chances of drowning or being eaten by sharks or touched by gross seaweed is infinitely less. So with that said, we will go ahead and move on to our judges. Papa, you're up first. Who sold you, and what sold the victory?
I want to visit this website now. I am giving it to Austin. I feel like I'm in a deja vu moment about hearing arguments about the Truman Show and why it's the best in something. Sean got that reference. Way to go, Sean. Every single counter Jacob had, Austin answered practically immediately. So he wasn't able. Jacob wasn't able to come up with something that Austin didn't have an answer for. And also still able to attack the opponent's movie. And I'm going to give him the edge.
All right, so Austin gets our first vote. As was aforementioned, I said this is very close to a previous fight we've had on this show. Jacob judged it. Sean, you were a part of that fight, so now you get to sit on the other side. Again, it should be restated, as was said in the rules. The judges are not aware of the questions. This was just fucking random happenstance that he is here. So, Sean, who won this for you, and what sold you?
This was tough, not because of what I had argued for in a previous match, but I felt Austin had a strong closing argument, but I also felt like Jacob had a lot of really good points throughout his arguments. And I feel like I voted for Jacob a lot. I don't know Jacob, but I'm going to go with Jacob again just because I found throughout the match, throughout that round, he rebutted, I think, just a little bit better with some of the things he said. Yeah, especially the Jim Carrey has comedic moments in Truman Show, and he does not in Spotless Mind. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Jacob again.
All right, so it is a split vote decision, which means we move over to Mr. Anderson. Who gets your vote, and what sold you on it in about 30 seconds or less?
So wasn't the original question the best dramatic performance from a comedic actor? Was that what it was?
As it's scrolling through the bottom, the question is, what is the best drama starring a comedian of all time? I know that comment sounds snarky to the viewers watching, but Jordan is in a car on his phone, so he probably has the worst chance of seeing it.
Yeah,
But it is about the film, not the performance.
There we go. If I squint, yeah. But yeah. Well, this felt like we both did great jobs kind of pointing out why their movie's great, why the other movies wasn't. But I do kind of agree. Austin, I think had those immediate answers like every single time, and I just felt like that Jacob kind of focused a little more on the movie as a whole and kind of less about Jim Carrey's performance. He kept bringing up all the other actors in the movie, and I felt like he didn't really talk about the movie as a whole that much, but he did point out quite a bit why he didn't like the Truman Show and all the holes in that. But I felt like Austin was just so quick to come up with those answers right away. So just by a little bit, I got to give it to Austin, I think.
All right, so thank you, judges. But I will go ahead and send you all to the back, because with that, and your winner by a score of 3-1, it is Austin Pez Howell taking the victory today. So normally we speak to the winner, but due to pre-discussed time constraints, I'm going to go ahead and make a flip here and send Austin to the back. We'll see you in just a sec and bring on Mr. Barber. Jacob, a well-fought match, man. With the exception of the first round, every single round had a split decision. So you can't say it wasn't as equal as could possibly be. But how are you feeling after that match? Despite, of course, the obvious "it sucks to lose" feeling.
It does, but like you said, split decisions, 2-1 votes for 3 of the questions. Who knows how the first one would have gone if we got to hear from the third judge. Horror is not my strong suit, so I'm not surprised, but it was still fun debating. Austin did great. I think I'm not disappointed at all. Like you said, 2-1. I'm not gonna hang my head at that. What this just shows me is that I'm going to come better prepared for the next one.
Absolutely. And speaking of the next one, because as the format dictates, this is like a giant mass fucking round of 32, because everyone, depending on your record, is going into a bracket. You are going into the 0-1 bracket. And that means that your next opponent is actually the loser of tomorrow's match. This is a double upload week. So tomorrow night we have Hunter Chambliss taking on Kevin Poss. The victor will go on to face their own opponent, and I'll bring that one up tomorrow. But the unfortunate fell victim from this match will be your next opponent. I know you know one of these guys very well, and I'm sure you know Kevin well enough. So what are your thoughts, and who would you look forward to facing more?
Well, do I want to debate horror or do I want to debate Disney again? I don't know. No, either of these guys. I like both of them. Good friends with both of them on the interwebs, and I've had great conversations with both, just based around movies, wrestling, what have you. So getting in the movie battleground ring with either of them will be a fun time. So I'm not rooting for either of them. I want them both to lose.
Well, that would certainly be a first, and hey, who knows? There's a first time for everything, right? We'll see what happens tomorrow. But Jacob, thank you so much, brother. I will send you to the back, and we will see you next time as I go ahead and bring on our victor, not victim. He did make a victim out of his opponent, though, Mr. Austin Pez Howell. Austin, how are you feeling after that?
I told you what was going to happen, Aaron. I told you at the beginning this was going to be an evisceration. And really, this should be a 4-0 match because apparently you can win arguing Captain America Civil War by just naming characters. That's literally what the judge said. He named characters in the movie. I give him the point. Great. All right, I'll dumb down my arguments next time and not be so prepared and point out intricacies on a technical level. Sorry about that. So anyways, what it should be was a complete and utter devastation. This was a TKO of the highest order. And as Notorious B.I.G. would say, if you don't know, now you know. If you don't know my name, you'd know it now.
Well, I do hope they know it because it is written in the title of the video. That would be a gracious oversight by people watching. But with that said, it is a victory. Whether you agree with the score or not, you do come out the victor. And with that, you go into our 1-0 bracket, which means you take on a competitor of which we will also find out very soon. Next week's match is Jonathan Peck versus Chadwick Webb. The winner of that goes into the 1-0 bracket to take you on. Do you know anything about either of these gentlemen? And if you do, who do you want more?
I know almost nobody from this community. And you know what? That doesn't matter. Because I'm going to prep the same way I prep for this match. I'm going to prep for every single argument. I'm going to prep for every single movie, and I'm going to destroy. That's what I'm going to do. Ready for anybody you put in front of me, Aaron. So I don't know who those two guys are. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to prep the same way I'm going to prep for every single one of these things and do what I do best. That's win arguments.
All right, Austin. Well, you're clearly energized. You're clearly hyped up. You're clearly ready for this. It won't be too long before we see you. I can't tell you on the schedule. You're one of the earlier matches that's coming once we get into these bracket tournaments. So it won't be before too long that you are back. And with that, I will see you next time on the Battleground, good sir. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, guys. And once again, that has been another match in the movie Battleground. A very close match, I would say. As was said, pretty much every question went to a split decision. We don't know what the third judge would have said on that first one. Maybe that one was also a split decision. But it was a fun night. It was an interesting night with some great debate. And as was said earlier, tune in tomorrow because we have Hunter Chambliss, a well-known name around the fan community who many, many people know, taking on the commissioner of our sister league in the form of TM Geek, Kevin Poss, who I believe is actually making his movie Battleground debut. He has never played, which surprises me more than anything. But they will be going at it tomorrow night. Be sure to tune in. But on behalf of everyone in this match, our competitors, Austin Howell and Jacob Barber, our three great judges, Jacob West, Sean Hunter, and Jordan Anderson, please be sure to check all of their stuff out and return for our next trip to the movie Battleground. My name is Aaron Knoll, and we will see you next time.